Welcome to the Small Magic Podcast, where we discuss the small things you can do to improve your life, your community, and maybe even the world, and meet other people changing the world in their own way. I'm Lisa Demmi. Let's get started. We've got a lot to talk about. Hey everyone, Lisa here with the Small Magic Podcast, and I'm really excited about this episode today because we have what I would say a very special interview today we have Jennifer Lockwood, who is a pilot from St. Pete, who is going to be telling us about all the things that she's doing with regard to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I believe Puerto Rico too, right, Jen?
Yep, Puerto Rico too.
So let's just jump right in because nobody wants to hear me talk. So Jennifer, why don't you give me a little background on you first, because not a lot of people know about you, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what you're all about.
Okay, sure. I'm from Missouri originally, and after college, I was kind of bored getting into the workforce and living in a cold city, and had some friends in the Virgin Islands asking me to come down to check it out. And after a few months of them telling me all this cool stuff they're doing, snorkeling and diving and sailing, I'm like, yeah, I probably should. So I went down for a vacation, and I was going to stay for a few months, and that I just fell in love with the island and the people. Was stoked to live by the ocean and the culture, a slow kind of way of life, way different than the States. Had no idea that lifestyle existed. So I stayed for 5 years, and after I decided I was going to stay, I ended up getting into real estate and then into aviation. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, I didn't want any responsibilities. I just crewed on a sailboat and was having a good time. So then I met my boyfriend, and we had a daughter there and lived there full time for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then in 2014, we had a loss in the family here in Florida. So we came back to be with the family and have our daughter around everyone. It helps a lot. So we still get back regularly. Always intended to move back there, or at least do halftime there and halftime in St. Pete.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess, just a very short of getting down to St. Croix. And
gotcha.
Yeah.
So the main reason I was attracted to your story was because, if I never hear about a hurricane ever again in my life, I will be really happy because, I'm a Floridian, and the hurricane they scared me this year. I've never been nervous about a hurricane. This year I was. And a lot, it's crazy. A lot of my friends and some family are in USVI and in the US Virgin Islands and in Puerto Rico, and there's so much being said about what's not being done down there. I love that you guys, you'll tell your story, but it sounds like you said, I can't wait for that. I'm going to do something. So is that pretty much how it started?
Definitely. So it started with whenever Irma hit St. Thomas and the BVIs. Mm-hmm. I was talking to my friends in St. Croix because they were running relief from St. Croix to St. Thomas through private boats, and boats that are normally chartered to the snorkeling spots on St. Croix were now filling up with supplies, water, food, generators, and going over to St. Thomas and St. John. All the airplanes at our local FBO in St. Croix were flying nonstop, medevac, bringing supplies in. So everybody on St. Croix had turned into like a relief group to the other islands, and they needed help. So I had got involved right away after Irma to lend them some support. We were going to send some pilots down because they're short staffed. They were flying so much. And I had started working with a sustainable farm on St. Croix to raise money for tarps and food and different things. So that was kind of what got the ball rolling, was Irma. And then once Maria hit St. Croix, which is my former home,
right,
it was just like full force at that point. Like, okay, this is it. I was into it 100%, like 15 hours a day. But it was working because people were telling me what they needed.
Right.
And then I was able to connect with the two aviation communities, working at the airport prior in St. Croix and now working in St. Pete at the airport. I got access to fly in while the airport was still closed. And then we also got a great deal on an airplane through St. Pete Air to pack it up. So we told everybody we got a way to get down there. We know what people need. We just need your help. Donations, supplies, let's fill these planes up. And everyone just started helping. It was amazing, like astonishing, really, all the support.
I was reading the website and watching some of the video that our mutual friend April's been posting, and it makes you feel really good about humanity to see how people have been rallying around that. How many trips have you made down there now?
It's been 8 trips with the plane. And then we've sent a few containers down as well, full of supplies that were donated locally from the Florida residents. And then we have our 9th flight leaving tomorrow for St. Croix.
Wow. And didn't you guys just bring a plane full of pets back?
Oh, we did. It was a zoo when that plane arrived. There was 7 dogs, I think 9 cats, a bunny rabbit, 4 contractors that were down there working from Missouri.
Wow.
And the pilots.
Wow. So initially you were just like trying to get stuff down there. I mean, were you guys taking a list like, okay, who needs what, or was it just like basic stuff?
It was basic supplies. I was kind of inundated with requests from everyone on the island, but it was pretty much everybody needed the same thing. They needed generators, chainsaws, work gloves, food and water in the beginning was a necessity.
Right.
You know, they don't have power or running water.
That's crazy.
So I know it's hard to really think about living like that.
Yeah.
So I had connected with a few different people that represent a larger group on the island so that they could distribute them. So we had some like point people on St. Croix that could, you know, because it was a lot of work for distribution. That's kind of a big part of this I've learned in disaster relief, the logistics of that. So we were lucky because we'd pull the plane up, open up the cargo door, and I'd have 5 pickup trucks there taking the supplies, and then people had power and water that day. Wow. So it was just immediate impact.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we brought down parts for a few different businesses. The gas station out east, their fuel pump
that everybody's congregating at, that one.
Yeah. But that was a huge one because they just needed this small FedEx box of computer parts so their gas pumps would work.
Wow.
They had 900 gallons of gas in the ground, no way to pump it. And that's a gas station that provides fuel to like a quarter of the island.
Wow.
So they were up and running that day that the parts arrived. We also brought in some fuel filters for one of the big grocery stores for their generators. So once they got those, they could sell refrigerated food and run their EBT and their cash registers. So small items like that, bringing down on a plane made a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean,
trickling down to everybody.
Having a grocery store, having gas, having a place to go. I mean, we take that for granted, but when you don't have it, it's got to be just miserable.
Yeah, it like the first couple of days, people were in shock. And then I noticed after like the 3rd or 4th day, the calls and messages I get were people were getting a little more scared because they were actually running out of supplies. They were like, I have food left for 6 days. And these are people who stocked up and prepared. But some families' homes were so damaged that they lost what they had gathered. Right. And then they moved in with another family because they had a generator and they still had a stock. So now you're sharing what you had planned for your family with your neighbors. So there was a shortage for sure.
Sure. So what are you, I'm on the website. So you guys who are listening, I want to say it says it's usvirelief.org, right?
Yes.
But it points to something else. So don't freak out if you end up on stpeteair.org.
Yeah, I work for St. Pete Air.
Okay. And
when we launched the effort, we wanted to tie in our aviation community. And they sponsored us and gave us a great deal on the flights. So it was a partnership between St. Pete Air and then the Glasscock Family Foundation, which was the nonprofit.
Okay.
We chose the website just because of the name is easy to remember and it gets to the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see. So there's, it looks like there's a bunch of different places where you're focused on. I see animal rescue, provisions of skilled labor, support of roof replacement and tarp installations, solar power and supplies. I can't imagine any one of these is any more important than the other, really.
They're all extremely important for sure. So shelter, power, water,
Mm-hmm.
and then the animal rescue is a huge need as well. So we're able to kind of do those simultaneously, and it's working out with the teams that we're putting in place to provide relief for each one of the areas.
This is all funded by donations, right? Like nobody's saying, hey, let's make money off of this. And everything that you guys get pretty much goes right back to the island, right?
100%. We're volunteers.
Okay.
So,
that's crazy.
There's 3 of us mainly in the nonprofit that are just working kind of around the clock. But it's so rewarding. You can't get paid to do something like this. It's just, I mean, you can, of course, but it's just, it's the most rewarding position I've had in my life, regardless of,
But you probably wouldn't have wanted to have, right?
No. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to be so thankful to be able to help. And then at the same time, wish that there was no problems to fix down there, that everybody was good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, people listen to this story and say, oh my God, I totally want to help. Like April's been sharing a lot of it on Facebook. I've shared a lot on Facebook. I'm sure everyone is sharing a lot. And I think that's how the word's getting out. What is the thing, like, are donations of financial donations the best thing? Or I know you need GCs. I think they were looking for a way to help get the pets down and with like veterinarians. What is it that comes to mind that you guys could really use like right now?
The financial donations make the biggest impact right now because it allows us to fund planes and serve an immediate need to get the pets off the islands, get the contractors to the islands quickly, and also spend money on generators and the solar product. So the money definitely is what kind of drives what's needed.
Okay.
We also need folks that want to do some work, like some labor, and the general contractors and veterinarians, and we can send them down commercially. And again, that's funded by monetary.
So people have been asking me, we have a little group that's trying to get down there, but people have been asking me how can they come, like they want to work. So if they just go to the website, is there so learn how you can help now, is that where they would go to sign up to get down there to help? Because they're ready to work. They're ready to work.
I would say call us directly.
Okay.
I'll have, if April hasn't added a phone number yet, I know that there's a contact us button for an email, and the people that have inquired, we're just contacting them directly so we can place them with our island general contractor and make that connection. That's kind of been a big part of all of this, is connecting people in the Florida community with people in the St. Croix community, and then letting them help each other, which is, because you need that island contact to show you the lay of the land, give you the job site, So if we have any contractors that are ready to help, then I would say email us off the website, and we'll get you set up.
I see the contact form. It's down here on the bottom of the page.
And our goal for contractors is to fly them down there, whether it's commercial or private, whatever makes more sense financially, and then set up lodging, and then get you hooked up with our local contact so you can do a job. If it's a week, you can donate, or 2 weeks. Even if somebody wants to come, or a crew can come for a month, there's plenty of work to be done.
I can't imagine.
15,000 people lost their roofs in the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's not even including Puerto Rico stats.
Right. So are you guys going to Puerto Rico as well, or is it just pretty much the U.S. Virgin Islands?
We're going to Puerto Rico as well. We've been to Ponce twice, and we're going again at the end of the week. And we've been dropping supplies and evacuating people in Ponce.
Okay.
We've picked up a few people and pets in Isla Grande, and we've done 2 supply runs to Vieques.
Okay. Well, Jen, what are people getting into? Because I think, we've all seen the videos now, but what are they, if they say they're coming down to help, what can they expect? Obviously there's no electricity. They're like, what is it they're walking into so that they're prepared for what they're going to be doing?
An open mind and camping and ready to work hard. But it's totally rewarding because, you know, people need the help, and the island community is so appreciative of anyone that's down there to lend a hand. You know, I pack like I'm camping when I go down. The first few trips, I brought a hammock because I wasn't really sure where I was going to sleep. I was prepared to sleep in the airport hangar. But, you know, we can set up accommodations too, where you have a generator and it's just minimal and it's simple living, which is kind of a nice reminder, really. There is enough food and water to go around, so you don't have to worry about that so much. But the island's destructive.
Yeah.
So, you know, you need good work boots and work gloves, and it's going to be messy.
So don't show up with flip-flops and cut off shorts or anything.
Yeah, it's not vacation yet, but stay for a few more months and we'll get there.
As general contractors, you know, my wife and I have a general contracting company, and something that the questions that we had were, I think April had said that you guys have supplies down there, you have the tools down there, so we really don't need to bring tools necessarily, or should we be prepared to bring tools?
Well, with the airlines, you can travel with 100 pounds for free if you're part of a relief group. So, you know, you probably have your tools you like. I would bring a tool bag that you want to work with your basics. As far as material, we can get those on island. And as we progress, we'll be shipping a container down full of the materials that are needed. So we can line up, you know, so you have the supply you need.
And then she talked a lot about the tarp project. What can you tell me a little bit about that?
That's been evolving. So in the beginning, well, FEMA sent down 11,000 tarps, and the Army Corps of Engineers is managing the distribution of the tarps. And there was a huge lag in the beginning. The tarps were just sitting in a parking lot, and we spent the weekend. It turned into like an investigation, like what's going on? Who can we talk to get this ball moving? Like, there's no reason for these tarps to be just sitting here, whenever we had just spent a day going through the neighborhoods that had the most damage, and these families have applied for a tarp. You know, it's been over a week and they haven't heard anything. And we know the tarps are sitting down the street, and it's just like, what's happening? So, you know, the Army Corps of Engineers was helpful, and they did create a volunteer program after talking with us, because the way they had it set up is there was only one general contractor that's working with FEMA, and you could become a subcontractor under them. But that's a process. So we wanted to get more contractors approved, but that's going to take like 3 or 4 months, which doesn't make sense. So at this point, you can either become a subcontractor under the FEMA assigned person, or you can work as a volunteer, and then they will allow us access to the FEMA tarps. And then there's work orders. So every day you'll get a sheet of work orders, and then you're going to the homes and you're tarping the roofs. And some of those are complicated, depending on how the house was affected by the storm and what type of roof they have. Another big problem though, but that's starting to move a little better. Now we have about 1,000 contractors working on the roofing project, but it's actually still could use more people in that area. Because you know, it's been raining a lot since the storms, and there's still, you know, thousands of homes without tarps. So the more people putting on tarps, the better. Phase 2 of the roofing is the actual rebuild of the roof. So
roofing contractors would be pretty good to get down there too, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of people don't have homeowners insurance, and they'll have homeowners, but they might not have wind insurance, so they're not covered. I'm not even sure what those families plan on doing right now. They're going to need assistance.
Yeah.
And FEMA is not doing the rebuilding. They're doing the tarping. So the government money that's allocated at this point, at least, isn't for the rebuild. So there's a gap there that needs to be filled.
Is any of the money that you guys raise going to be helping any of that? Or are you guys just working on the basics right now, and you'll cross that bridge when you get there?
That's on the radar. Roofing project is, you know, in like our top 3 or 4 things that we're working towards. We were actually going to fund crews to tarp roofs, and I had 15 laborers lined up. And that same day we were getting ready to launch our funding, I ended up getting those guys all under the subcontractor. So FEMA's paying them now. So really, it was a better deal, you know.
Sure. That's your funds, right?
Yeah, because then we can allocate the money somewhere where FEMA's not spending. So it's like the solar project for the water systems, or the animal evacuations, or the rebuilding of the roofs, which is, we're just kind of figuring out what's the best way to go about that.
Right. You know, again, we've seen the videos, and like, this isn't a project that's going to be done at the end of this year and everybody's going to pack up and say, hey, thanks so much, we'll see you later. This is going to take a long time, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I mean, they're not even looking at having power for 6 months.
I can't believe it.
So I know, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
And that's kind of optimistic. So some people are saying longer. I mean, there's, the power lines are down throughout all the islands, and just the terrain and the access to get to those, it's a challenge.
Are you planning on, like, are you here for the long haul?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else except for helping the island recover. It's,
Sure.
it just hit home, and they need the help. And as long as we have the resources to keep it going, then I'm here.
So the biggest thing we can do is get you people and get you money, right? That's the biggest way that we can help, is by having some laborers and having people donate some money.
Yes, that's the best way to help.
And you know, so we were talking before we started the podcast that we were trying to figure out a weekend that we could get down there. And I know there's so many moving parts that, you know, I can't even fathom. I mean, I can barely keep track of my own week, much less something as big as that. Would you say there'll be opportunity for people to help multiple times even after the new year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, they're gonna need rebuilding for at least a year, maybe 2 years.
Okay. Because I know people are, you know, you know, when I first talked to April about this, I was like, man, I wish I could just drop everything I'm doing and or write a big fat check. And
Yeah.
we unfortunately, you know, we do have businesses that we have to take care of. That said, it sounds like, you know, there's so many people here who really do want to help. And you know, I'm hoping that by doing this podcast, we can get some more exposure for your efforts, and have people, you know, people are saying all the time, what can we do? What can we do? Well, here's what you can do. You can go to this website and you can donate some money, or you can go down there and actually do some work. And I think people are really on board for that, particularly that a friend of mine, her family is in St. Croix, and we were talking about it. She says, I feel like people have forgotten about the Virgin Islands.
I've been hearing that a lot.
And, you know, Puerto Rico's getting a lot of exposure because of the whole president and the mayor and all of that, which isn't great exposure, but at least people are hearing about it.
Right.
And you would hope that no one would have to get that kind of exposure. But when I spoke to her, she was like, no one's saying anything about the Virgin Islands. No one's saying anything, and they're in just as bad a shape.
I've even heard from quite a few people that they heard on the news the USVI is stable. Like, they're fine. They're doing good. And I'm like, no, they're not. They don't have power or water. The schools aren't even open. There's no hospital. You know, they're not okay.
What is the demeanor of the people? How, you know, now, are they still in shock? Are they kind of coming to grips with it and helping each other? Like,
You know, it's pretty amazing because the people are good spirited, and they're very community oriented. They're supporting each other 100%. I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions, you know, as far as the landscape of the island has completely changed. But overall, there's so much support with one another on the island that it's a beautiful thing to see everyone come together and help their neighbors and get their homes. You know, in the beginning, there were crews meeting in the morning, and they'd be like, okay, have we been to this street yet? Have we been to this street? Let's go down there. And they would chainsaw driveways open so people could get out of their houses. And that's been going on until you didn't need to chainsaw all the debris, you know, so everybody actually could get out of their homes and access the distribution centers. And now the groups are still meeting in their neighborhoods, and they're going to make sure you have a generator, you have your medical machine, do you have food and water? So there are people kind of, you know, trickling around the island, just checking on each other and then helping them get what they need if it's a type of person who can't get out of the house, they have medical condition or kids.
I've been hearing stories about two things that people are concerned with. They were concerned with the fact that even though there was a relief effort going on, that people couldn't get to it. And then the other thing was that a lot of people have been saying to me, well, the stuff's going down there, but who's it going to? And so what you said, I just want to reiterate, you said that you guys have contacts on the ground there who are making sure that the supplies get to the people that actually need them, correct?
Exactly. And they get to them the day we bring them down. That's the beauty of aviation.
Because it's like what, it's like a 4.5 hour flight down there, I think,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
back. So you're spending like 9 hours in the air to drop off stuff. I mean, and to know that it could be, I mean, that sounds long and short all at the same time, because in essentially in 10 hours,
Mm-hmm.
they have stuff that is going to impact them tremendously that
Right.
they didn't have the day before.
It's a huge difference. Like just bringing down the generators, like 5 families will have power that night and running water, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes sense. The stuff that's coming in the port it's getting distributed pretty well on St. Croix.
Hmm.
I don't really know what's happening with the Puerto Rico situation. I've heard a lot of, issues with the distribution. St. Croix is a smaller animal. It's a little easier to get things around, I guess. We don't have all the mountainous communities. I know they're having a hard time in Puerto Rico getting supplies up there.
I did hear that. Hmm. Hmm.
So it's not just sitting there in St. Croix. It's getting out to the people who need it. There's crews of people doing home deliveries as well.
That's great.
I think what St. Croix mostly needs is, besides power and water are huge, we need solutions for that. And then the rebuilding.
Right.
There's so many homes and businesses and schools and churches that have been destroyed, or roofs are gone, or, they need partial construction so they can invite children back in and the families and do the community centers, kind of get back to normal a little bit. So the contractors, laborers is super helpful.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is if we can connect whatever you're into, whatever your business is in the States, if you're into animal care,
Mm-hmm.
then we can connect you with somebody into animal care on the island, and you can work directly with that group.
Okay.
Same with the general contracting. If you're a roofer, an electrician, or a plumber, I can get you connected with a general contractor so she can put you to work. If you're in the medical field and you want to donate medical supplies, we're working with a nonprofit, Frederickstead Healthcare, which is actually turning into like the hospital because we don't have one anymore. Then you can help Frederickstead Healthcare. If you're into sustainable farming, we're working with Ridge to Reef Farm, who supplies organic food to the island and teaches children how to farm, and cool college permaculture class. They have a lot of neat programs. They lost all of their crops. So, you can get connected with like your niche or what interests you. And if it's on the island, which likely it is, then we know somebody. I've got a good friend or a connection there that I can match up. And you could become part of that group and help out.
So don't just assume that what you can do isn't needed, because it sounds like pretty much everything is needed.
Everything is needed. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Jen. What would you want people to know about what you guys are doing, or about the islands that that we haven't talked about, or that just drives you crazy that people don't like? Obviously, you said the U.S. Virgin Islands is not stable.
No. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, one of the biggest things is it is U.S. territory. It's a beautiful place to visit for your family, for vacation. The culture is so rich there, and it makes it really awesome that it's U.S. territory, because you don't have a language barrier. You don't need a passport. You can go visit these islands, and still have the rich culture and the beauty of the Caribbean on U.S. soil, which it's a pretty cool thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest problem, as far as the way people are thinking that the islands are stable, it's not the case. And I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. If that's hits home to you, then there's an opportunity to help here. Mm-hmm. And it's very rewarding, and to, just connect with humanity and compassion and make that part of your life.
The kind of the mission of this podcast is to let people know that you don't have to be anybody famous or rich or fancy or special to make an impact. And I love that you guys are like, we're not waiting for anybody to get it done. We'll just start it ourselves. And obviously, from everything you've told me and the things that I've heard, you guys have made an unbelievable difference for so many people who live in the U.S. Virgin Islands and in Puerto Rico, and their pets. I mean, that's family too, you know. Um, I I I love hearing that people are taking it on themselves to help someone else who isn't them. And I think that, you know, that gives me hope for humanity, that to see people doing this. The one thing that I would like to let people know is don't wait for a disaster to happen to be this way. You
Sure.
know, I mean, I love that we're all getting together and we're all banding together to help, but be this way all the time, you
Yeah.
know? So if anybody wants to help, they can just go to the website, right? You said use the contact form, and it's usvirelief.org.
Yes.
And it's the contact form, y'all, is all the way down on the bottom of the homepage. So just make sure you scroll down there. And is there any one last thing you want to leave us with? Listen, I want to thank you, because the people who I have friends who are down in the islands are so thankful for what you guys are doing.
No.
When I told them that, like, they started crying. So, and they're not there. They have friends who are down there, you know, or family who's down there. So thank you so much for doing what you do. What is there one thing you want to leave us with before we let you out of here and get back to get some rest first, and then I guess you're flying down soon. So
yeah, we're flying in the morning. No rest though. We got a whole plane to plan this evening, but it's all good for sure. The contact form, we respond daily.
okay.
So that you'll get a response with the same day. If you want to write, you know, how you want to help, or, you know, what your skill is, then we can likely get you involved, you know, right away.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm so thankful for all the support that everyone has provided for this entire project.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like the whole group of people that are coming together that's making it happen.
And like no amount is too small, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just wild to me how everybody lines up, and whether they're bringing something small or large, it all works together to impact the communities down there. So.
Right. Well, thank you again. Listen, thank you for your time. I know you're busy, and I know you got stuff to do, and I really appreciate you sitting down with me for a few minutes. And again, thank you for what you guys are doing. You know, I hope I never have to be needing your services in this way, but it's good to know that there are people like you who exist that are happy to do whatever it takes, really.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we're all in it together, right?
Yeah. I hope so. We should be. So thank you so much. I'm sure I'll be talking to you and seeing you soon. And I will make sure to put in the show notes the way they can reach y'all. And you know, please feel free if there's anything else we can do. Like, I hope I can get you some exposure with this podcast, because that's what we want to do here. But thank you again, and I appreciate it. Fly safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Lisa.
All right, take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Small Magic Podcast. Just a reminder to you to ask your doctor if the advice on the podcast is right for you. Eat your veggies, get enough sleep, eat dessert first, smile often, and indulge in plenty of laughter by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast gatherer. And remember, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and learn more at lisademmi.com. That's LISADEMMI.com. Now go out there and perform some small magic.